Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 162nd episode of Shea Station. The Mets went to Detroit and got swept by the Tigers. We started last episode, or we ended last episode by saying this could be the beginning of a get right stretch for the Mets. Game one kind of looked like it would go their way. And after that, eighth inning, the rest of the series was pretty much written in stone. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack, aka Jolly. Joining me in a very nice new backdrop is Jerry Blevins. Jerry, how are you feeling right now?
I feel good, man. Good morning to you.
Cheers.
Yeah, they got swept in Detroit. It's not ideal in any sense. Um, Scherzer didn't look great. Verlander looked really good, but still early and not fully stretched out, so they only went five. Jimmy Yacobonis looked great. The offense looks kind of DOA.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not calling on this phone though, because I don't think our internet would be very good.
although it
Um,
is nice. It's your style.
it, it's very my style at my Airbnb. Uh, I'm okay, man. I know a lot of people are very upset, and understandably, I think they're worried, and I get it. So, how are you feeling?
I feel okay. I didn't feel great yesterday. I think if we had recorded right after the game, the reaction might have been different. But this is kind of how I felt after the Cubs swept us at home last year. I know the scenario of the season was completely different, September, all that. But yeah, the team just looked kind of lifeless after game one. Game one looked like it could have been in their hands. I think they didn't tack on when they should have. And then Otto just didn't have it because he hadn't pitched in a while. Max Scherzer, I think, is the biggest thing for me. I'm starting to get worried because we're five starts in now. That's, a decent chunk of your season, about, 1/6, if you can call it that. And he hasn't looked good, in pretty much every facet. He's walking people, he's given up a ton of home runs. Velo is still down from where it used to be. I think that is mostly where my concern lies because outside of that, the bullpen had good moments there. Jimmy Yacobonis looked really good. Didn't use D-Rob, which was unfortunate. The offense looked good in game one, and then they kind of just disappeared in game two and game three. And you kind of have to tip your cap to Erod because he's a good pitcher, and I think people forget that. But yeah, man, they're in a weird stretch right now. They're cold. And the Mets kind of do this thing with bad teams where they play down to them, and then against the good teams, they play up to them. That's just kind of been my experience in the past few years as a Mets fan. So I'm hoping that's just what's going on right now. Hopefully Pete can reheat, and we can see that light hot bat get back to it because I don't think he's had a home run in a couple weeks now, or a week and a half or something like that. But yeah, man, you're if you're concerned at home or angry at home, I think you're rightful and entitled to feel that way. But I'm hoping that they'll come home and kind of quell those worries.
Yeah, I understand exactly what you're feeling. I think they looked flat. That offense looked flat. Um, they're an older team. It's going to take a while, I guess, to find their identity. It's been a really weird start to the year as far as like game time and
Hmm.
travel. Um, Scherzer hasn't had a regular routine. I understand the worry. I'm just now starting to be at the front of, uh-oh, this might be it. But to me, I'm never going to count out a three-time Cy Young winner who puts in the work that he does. I'm not going to
Right.
doubt him until he says, what do I got to do? Um, because I think even at this level, I think he could figure it out. I think he's still trying to that velo's in there, and he's trying to see it. If it doesn't show up and he doesn't pivot, then I'll be worried. Um, but there's a red flag up. I'll tell you that. So I get it. Verlander looked looked really good. He gave up two solo home runs. Um, I was very encouraged by what I saw from JV. His velo was there. His location wasn't as crisp as normal, but it got there. Um, Nimmo's streaky. Alonso's cold.
Yeah.
McNeil doesn't look great. Marte doesn't look great. Um, Lindor is swinging and missing a ton. But yeah, man. I'm not ready to panic. This might be a weird spot for the Mets where it's only May the 5th today.
Yeah,
Happy Cinco de Mayo to you. And it's we're not saying goodbye to the NL East, but it truly doesn't really matter if they win the NL East because this team's still built to win if all things they figure it out eventually and they make the playoffs. So now it might be just get to the dance with your two horses healthy and your lineup locked in. But I still believe that this team could play how we thought they did last year. They won 101 games last year.
right.
They added Verlander. Um, yeah, so I still believe in the team, but again, you don't. I'm not down on everything that I see.
Yeah, I mean, I said it yesterday, knowing that I'd probably get some wolves after me. But, at this point last year, those same Braves who have developed into a wagon were 15 and 17 to start the season. So, in fact, these Mets are technically better than they were at this point last year. Obviously, the Braves had young spark plugs come up and Michael Harris II and Spencer Strider, and that's still a thing that can happen for the Mets with Beatty, Alvarez, Mauricio, Vientos has been raking. So that's still in the cards. But, teams don't usually catch fire and stay on fire the entire season like the Mets did last year. That was just kind of a really special 101 win season. And I think it's tough for Mets fans because we went from watching 70 to 75 win teams year in and year out, and then last year was a complete anomaly, if I'm being completely honest. And we I don't know if we could expect 100 win teams every year, but this is still a winning team. This is still a team that should make the playoffs and potentially win 90 games. They just haven't found their footing yet. I think it's an identity thing too. They had that weird end to the season last year, the very abrupt end. They had the Correa thing. They had just I don't know. I don't know if this team has fully found who they are yet, especially starting the season without Verlander and then missing Scherzer, who's supposed to be the identity of the team. It's been a weird start to the season. I'll say that. So to be 500 at what I consider the end of the start of the season isn't inherently bad. It's just not where we want to be considering where things were last year. Um, I think with this episode, we're not going to do a full recap. We're not going to do apple of our eye. If you saw on our socials, we instead opened up the airwaves to you guys to let you guys voice your opinions, get your rants out, offer some optimism because we have very optimistic listeners, which I love. And I was worried that nobody would want to call in on such a downer of an episode, but we ended up getting like 40 voicemails, which is pretty cool. We're not going to be able to get to them all, sadly, but we did pick out a handful with some nice sentiment and some questions. For those of you who ranted, I heard you. I heard your curse words. I understand. Don't think we can feature them on the show because we have some kids listening.
We do still appreciate the call, though. Get
Oh,
your feelings
absolutely.
out. Let us know. It's better to leave it in a voicemail than to do it on the internet
Yes.
where it's permanent.
Yes.
We're not gonna air you out.
Especially
We're
because
not
I
gonna
think
play your rant.
if you vocalize it, I think it feels better than typing it out, because
We'll,
then you
we'll I'll
really
be
get
your
it out of your system.
we'll be your therapists.
Yeah, we'll be your therapist today. Hey everyone, hope you're having a great morning. Thanks for tuning into the Shea Station podcast. Before we kick off today's voicemail episode, a very special episode, considering where the team is at, I'm going to tell you about today's sponsor, which is a very special sponsor, and that's HelloFresh. I wish HelloFresh kind of got a more high spirits episode to be the sponsor of, but nonetheless, they are probably my favorite sponsor in Shea Station history. I got to sample some of their meals, and they're absolutely delicious. Specifically, the firecracker meatballs were a treat for me and my family to eat. Guys, if you're not a connoisseur in the kitchen, HelloFresh is the right thing for you. They have foolproof recipes that arrive pre-portioned, and they're just easy to prepare, and anyone can cook them, even if you haven't cooked before, because of how specific and detailed their instructions are. It keeps your taste buds on their toes with 40 recipes and over 100 seasonal and convenience items to choose from every week. And they're celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So you can try limited edition, authentic recipes created in partnership with Sir Bisani, a chef, and enjoy a cultural taste tour right in your own kitchen. So if you're looking to expand your taste palette, this is a great opportunity for you. Right now, they have an awesome deal. You can go to HelloFresh.com/Shea16, SHEA 16, and use that code for 16 free meals plus free shipping. I know that sounds a little too good to be true. Right now, if you click that link, hellofresh.com/Shay16, you can get 16 free meals and free shipping and start using America's #1 meal kit right now. I highly recommend it. Thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's episode. And now let's get to Shay Station. All right, so I picked out a handful. Jerry, you want to dive into these, or you want to get one
Let's
more
do
thing
it,
off your
man.
chest? All right.
Thanks. No, thanks again, guys. So we appreciate you guys listening, calling in, following us up. That's great. I'm not ready to panic yet. I get it, but I think we're ready to get into it.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to kick us off with, let's see. I think I'll kick us off with this one because I think the sentiment was good. It's from a fan not named, but a fan who started following the Mets the same year I did in 2009. So I feel like we share a very similar headspace. All right. Here's the first one. Hopefully you can hear it okay. No.
Very long, you know.
We're going to restart it. And now we're going.
Okay.
All right, so I haven't been a Mets fan very long. I mean, nominally I've been a Mets fan since 2009 maybe. I was back when like Citi Field first opened, but I was pretty young back then. I'm only 19 now, and I think I've just discussed with like the doomerism that you see within Mets fans that this is the worst team they've ever seen, and it's clearly not. I mean, will this team catch lightning in a bottle? Probably not. But, they're still a pretty competitive team day in and day out. I will say this. I am deeply concerned for Max Scherzer. I think that he's getting old, and his fastball velocity has just continued to tail off. Now, this has been a weird start to the season with the inconsistencies in actually getting out there on the mound. But I think the drop in velocity is concerning, and I think that that's contributing to his inability to fool hitters, at least in the early part of the season. So I'd like to hear what you guys have to say about that.
Great call from our unnamed listener. He named some of the things that you mentioned when you were talking about Scherzer, but I thought it might quell Mets fans to hear you kind of offer some pitcher's wisdom on what you think is wrong with Max right now.
So, first of all, thanks for the call and good pointed questions. They definitely aren't the worst team we've ever seen.
I hope
We're
not.
not the
Jeez.
worst. They're not the worst Mets team we've seen in recent history, to be honest.
Yeah.
But the expectations coming in raise your level of what you want to see. I want to address Scherzer a little bit. Velo's down. Nobody's chasing the off speed out of the zone. He's getting ahead, can't put anybody away, which is so anti-Scherzer, what we're used to. I still believe that he'll be fine. You give me to the end of May. Once he gets into regular starts, and if it doesn't turn around, if his velo doesn't come back, he's definitely not going to be as effective as he would be at 95. But he could still be a very good pitcher at 92. It's just a different mindset. We saw CC have a resurrection of his career once he figured it out. Again, this isn't the guy that you signed up for $43 million a year to get that kind of guy. So I understand, but this is an experiment. Signing old people to be elite for a year or two, you're gonna swing and miss at a point. But this is what you're doing to contend this year, last year, and next year, while bringing up these core of young players, developing your player development. You're supplementing. So this is an experiment where you bring in two of the best pitchers in a generation at the end of their careers to try to win a championship, steal one early, but building a perennial contender.
I think you raised good points there, yeah.
Thank you. I was like, Scherzer might be not as effective. He might have missed his prime. We might miss the back end of that. He might not ever be the same. It's an experiment that might have failed, but I'm not ready to call Scherzer done at being elite, being a top 5 Cy Young contender. He's got a long way to go, but I'm not going to be the one to pronounce him dead and then he show up and just be elite. It's possible. But, I understand the concern and I get it.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned this in his PPP a bunch, but looking at his regular season numbers last year, he was really, really good. I know he missed about 8 starts in total, but I mean, he had a 2.29 ERA. He still gave us 150
229.
innings. Yeah, like that's
229.
you don't
That's
just find
elite.
that. You don't just find that. The thing that's concerning for me is that, I'm a savant guy. I like spending my time on there and, looking at percentile rankings and all that. And his main hub, his page with all the bubbles on it is unrecognizable. It's a ton of blue. There's not really any red in sight, and I'm very used to seeing dominance out of Max Scherzer, and that's just not. It may not be the pitcher who he is anymore, but that doesn't mean he can't get outs. I don't know if that's necessarily what that means. The big thing for me is the home run ball. 6 home runs in 22 innings is concerning. Last year was 13 home runs in 150 innings. So I need that to kind of be rectified. I don't need Max Scherzer to go out there and strike out 10 every time. If he can go out there and get 6 innings, 2 earned runs, and just find outs with a great defense behind him, that's fine. But he's got to keep the ball in the yard. And I think once we start seeing that is when we'll start seeing a positive change in his results, because he's giving up home runs to guys that should not be hitting home runs off Max Scherzer, quite frankly.
I'm with you, and I get it. Give me another month.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Let's get 1/3 of the way
Even
into the
to
season.
to be honest, even then, this team is built to win in October. If they figure it out, if they make the playoffs and Scherzer figures it out at the end of the season with Verlander, and you have those two at their full height of powers, I don't care about their record at the end of April. This team could go on a run. They're built to do that. You know, I just want to make sure they get to the playoffs, and then those two guys at the top are healthy. That's basically it. If we see it before then, if we don't, but I'm definitely worried. I definitely get the worry on Scherzer, and it's the beginning of, is this it? Because he's older. I
Yeah.
get it. He gets it. So
All right. Shall we move on?
let's do it.
All right. We got another call here. Does this one have a name? This one does. This is from Liam in Brooklyn. Here we go.
Jerry, Jolly, this is Liam from Brooklyn. Boys, how we doing? Personally, not too concerned about it. There's like 140 games left. Our pitching staff has been near non-existent, and some of the stopgap guys, have sort of showed up. I was impressed with Tommy Hunter personally. My question, I guess, if any, is are you guys concerned a little bit about Starling Marte at all? The guy bats second in our lineup, and he's a crucial piece to leading things off, and I just haven't seen it so far this year. A lot of double play balls, some tough fielding work, that's all. Love the show, guys, and let's go Mets.
All right. Thank you, Liam from Brooklyn, asking about Starling Marte. Do you want to lead off on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I'm a little concerned about Marte too because he's an older guy. He's a speed guy. He's always hit into double plays, like
Yeah.
weirdly because he's so fast. But he's been a double play guy before. He was last year too. Um, he made a great catch in the outfield. Um, at the wall in Detroit. I'm worried about anybody that's aging. You're gonna speed is tough.
Yeah.
Your bat speed goes with it. You have to adapt. But he's another player that I'm not going to throw away because he got hurt. That neck slowed him down. Um, he hasn't looked great, but I've seen spurts of him looking great this year already. So I think he'll be fine. But and it's hard not to look at all the little pieces of this lineup and be worried about it because of just how they've been shut out, what, 5 times, 6 times, something like that already?
8 times.
8 times already. I mean, that's absurd,
Yeah.
especially for a team built on contact that doesn't strike out. You're supposed to be kind of shutout proof because you're putting the ball in play. But for Marte, I'm going to put him in the same category as Max Scherzer. He's not that as good. He's not a Hall of Famer in my, but give it another month, and then if not, you're going to have to make an adjustment.
Yeah. No, I agree. And Marte, it's a little different for me because last year when he was, healthy for those first 5 months, it was good months and then bad months. He's a very streaky hitter. He started last year batting 224, 608 OPS in April. Then he lit it on fire in May, batted 340 with a 929, and kind of flip flopped by the month. His best month was in July. His OPS was over 1,000. And then in September, he was injured. So he's kind of always been that streaky hitter, at least in our impression of him as a Met. The thing that is concerning for me, and I'm not attributing this to the missed catch in game one because he was playing no doubles, and that's a hard ball to get to. So I don't know if he would have made that catch anyway. Um, Sprint speed is down. And we knew this going into this contract that Starling Marte, his main weapon was speed and that it would wane over the years. And we're in year 2. He's owed $20 million each of the next 2 seasons. Right now, he's the 36th percentile in sprint speed. And I think it's deceiving because you'd look at 9 stolen bases and assume Starling Marte still got it. He's still one of the faster guys in the league. That, I think, is the most concerning bit to me. And that's not really something you can fix. That's just part of aging at this point. So I'm hoping when that bat comes around, it can kind of rectify the aging skills of Starling Marte, because if he's not hitting, he is a liability to this lineup at this point. And I'm hoping that May can be a better month for him. Hopefully that neck still isn't bothering him. Hopefully he's not playing through pain or anything, because that's the last thing the Mets need right now. And they just got speedster Timmy LaCastro healthy again. He's playing in AAA, hit a double last night, stole a base. So he'll be ready to go.
You love him.
I love Timmy Lowe. I think he would be a good piece right now, Love Timmy Lowe.
I mean, when they signed Marte, it was like, oh man, you signed that guy to a 4-year deal?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty eye-opening then, because he was much older. And you knew speed, like you said, speed was going to go away. The sprint speed does concern me, but again, he's so streaky. He knows when to turn it on, when to not. So, yeah, give me the warm months when he's feeling good as an old man, and let's see how it goes.
Definitely agree. Yeah, I think out of the voicemails we received, the 2 most frequent questions were about Scherzer and Marte. So if you also called and asked about that and we didn't get to you, that's why, and we apologize. But yeah, I think that's kind of 2 big pieces on both sides of the ball right now that the Mets need to get going if they're going to be successful this year. And hopefully that will be the case. You ready to move on?
Yep.
Let's see where we should hop to. Okay, this one I found a little interesting because it's about the starting rotation, and I want to hear what you think about it. This is from Matt from Tulsa, Oklahoma.
This is Matt from Tulsa, Oklahoma. I've been a Mets fan for years, and I think we need to remember how good this team is, especially compared to teams of the past. But I do think there is areas of concern, mainly with the pitching rotation, the starting pitching rotation. If Max can't be the guy this year, I kind of think our season is going to live and die based on him. So my question would be, is there anyone out there, any trades that you all can see being made that could potentially, strengthen that starting pitching rotation? And if so, what would those be? Thanks.
Interesting question
Go
from
ahead.
Matt. What you got, Jay?
You want to recap question real quick, and then I'll let you take the first part.
Yeah, so Matt said that it was kind of following the Scherzer sentiment of things will live and die by him, and if things aren't working out, is the Mets' best course of action to try and dip into the trade market, which I found interesting because nobody really took that route, especially because it's early in the season. I will take the lead on this one, and I'll preface it by saying that if you're going towards the trade route and you're looking at the teams that are going to be selling, a lot of the marquee guys that would be considered starting pitching free agents kind of all play for winning teams right now. I mean, you have Shohei, who's an Angel, and who knows what that situation will be, but Julio Urias is a Dodger. He's not getting traded. Aaron Nola is a Philly. He's not getting traded. The biggest one, if you wanted to go this route, would be Lucas Giolito, who's off to a good start for the White Sox, and who knows what that team is going to look like in July. They got off to a bad start. They've been playing better as of late. But also with the Mets, you got to remember that we haven't seen Jose Quintana yet. Carlos Carrasco is due back and is supposedly healthy, so he could be back in a week or two's time. And we've barely seen Justin Verlander really go yet, and hopefully we have him for the rest of the season. Nothing going on there with his arm. So with that, you have 3 guys there, potentially Scherzer rebounding, and then a combination of Tyler McGill, Joey Lucchesi, and Kodai Senga, which kind of leads me to believe that if the Mets do make a trade, It's not going to be for a starting pitcher. I think if anything, it would be for that power bat that we've all been kind of waiting for because that's much more accessible on the market right now. But it's something to consider, especially if the Mets encounter more injuries, because I think Giolito is probably the top guy, and it'll probably yield a pretty competitive atmosphere with a lot of teams looking for starters. It's something to think about, but we're also in early May. I don't think the Mets are quite there yet.
I don't either. I still think Verlander looked great. Like he looked great. I was excited by what I saw. It looked the same. Numbers were the same as last year when he won the Cy Young and had a 175. Um, Kodai Senga hasn't been comfortable yet.
Yeah.
You know, again, I think he'll be very good. I was encouraged by what I've seen from him. He's been up and down, but it's been weird. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. McGill looked really good last start. He's been solid. Peterson was terrible, but he's been a very good pitcher. Carrasco's going to be coming back. Lucchese's looked very good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're going to give up anybody elite on the farm system for Lucas Giolito. I could be wrong, but it's not like if Giolito shows up and pitches that the whole team gets fixed. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, because you remember it's, one day out of every 5. It's not going to be a permanent fixture to the team. And we'll talk probables later with Senga and Lucchese because I think it's going to be an interesting series for them to hopefully rebound and bounce back. Tyler McGill also pitches in this series. As for Peterson, our guy, it's been a tough start to the season. He had a rough start at AAA yesterday too. I'm not sure when we'll see him back, honestly. I think he's got some things to figure out with that slider. Walks were down again, but I think he's got to find a good balance of both. But with Cookie healing up and Verlander back, it may not be necessary to have Peterson in this rotation. I think the Mets can find a formula with the older guys in the rotation. And I agree because Verlander, I think, was sitting like 95, 96, which is about where he was sitting all of last year. Outside of that first inning, which is, his first inning back pitching in, 6 months or whatever without a spring training, really, he looked good. So that's something that was encouraging going into this next series. You ready to hop to the next one?
On to the next one.
On to the next one.
I'm playing with
I was wondering what you were fiddling with over there.
I can't help it. It's like a Iron Man.
Kind of a child
squishy.
at heart.
Well, the boys are like, "Can I get that toy?" And in my head, I could play with that.
No, you can't have it. I'm playing with it. All right, this one is from Dan from Queens.
Hey,
Dan from
how's it going,
Queens.
guys? Jerry, love you. Jolly, you're okay too. This is Dan from Queens. I just wanted to know, do you think that guy Dan from RefGuest is he single? Thanks.
Love it, Dan from Queens. He loves me. I love you.
Did you
Jolly's
recognize
very
that
lovable,
voice?
Dan.
Did you recognize that
I
voice?
didn't.
That was our friend Dan Canobio.
Is that Canobio?
Yeah.
I
It
love Dan
was
Canobio.
our good friend Dan Canobio, noted Mets fan, Dan Canobio.
Is Dan Canobio from Queens, indeed?
I don't think he is.
I don't think so either. I do love me some Dan Canobio. Shout out Inside Boxing Live, John Boy Boxing. He's the man. He's on all the ref guest stuff. Yeah, he says some very inappropriate things that
Yes.
out of context sound terrible, but I love Dan. Love me some Dan.
Yeah, ref guest legend blowing up on TikTok. Good for Dan. Thanks for calling, Dan. You're a goon. All right, let's get back to the serious stuff. I promised him I would show him that one. So
I appreciate that.
let's see. Where should we hop to? This one's more for you as a former player.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a good question. Curious to see what you say.
Hey there, guys. Big fan. Jerry, remember you very fondly from when you pitched with us. And you always look very good on SNY, I gotta say. Jolly, big fan of you. Love your stuff as well. My question mainly is for Jerry, just like, as a veteran-laden team, how do they respond to the media here? Because, yes, we shouldn't be 500, but it's May 4th. It's May 5th. It's still an early season, so how do they keep
playing hard while still maintaining that, it's a marathon season, not a sprint. Thanks, guys. God bless.
That's good. First of all, thank you for the kind words. The question was kind of hard for me to hear. He wanted to know how a veteran team handles not playing up and also talking to the media. Is that the gist of it?
Yeah, the gist of it was how do the veterans respond to the media when playing really poorly after such a successful season? And then how does the mentality shift for a team that's kind of in like a marathon sprint of 162 who's struggling this early on?
Yeah, I mean that's the beauty part of a veteran leadership kind of team. On top of that, it's nice to have superstars like Francisco Lindor and Brandon Nimmo who get asked these questions the most. They bear that responsibility of standing in front of their locker and answering on behalf of everybody, including themselves.
Mm.
So as long as it's positive, if they're able to say, "Look, baseball's difficult. It's been strange. There's no excuses, but we're not playing up to where we are." They have that sense of, again, and this is New York in general, have a sense of responsibility and accountability for your part in it. Have a sense of reality about where you are and how the team looks, and be honest about what you think they need to work on or what you are working on. Just be, forthcoming and let people know where you are, but do it in a positive manner. And then this clubhouse is so good.
Mm.
If you remember the 2021 team where they're like, "Oh, we're a great clubhouse, we're fine, we'll figure it out."
Just smile.
This team will hold a meeting and they'll call people out if they think if they're not playing up to it, if they're not putting in the time. They'll figure it out. If it's capable of being figured out, if the parts are still good, this team will figure it out. So that leaves me very optimistic that if it's in there, they'll find it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that 2021 team because that was the first team that we covered together as a duo, and it's just such a far cry from where the team has come to this point. A lot of, it feels mean, but a lot of excuse making, a lot of just bad quotes in the media, the thumbs down debacle, the rat raccoon thing. That is not who this team is, which leads me to believe that they can rebound and find it, whereas that 2021 team kind of felt like they were just keeping their head above water until they weren't. Yeah, things have changed, and I think the veterans definitely help with that. And it's two-sided coin because the veterans are kind of also the reason why the team is struggling right now. But I'm hoping that the mood in the clubhouse is still high, and that's also another question that we got asked later that I'll lead us to.
Okay, go. Do you want me to answer that? The mood in the clubhouse?
I'll let our guy get his voice in first. Let's see.
Okay, cool.
I believe this is Joe from Maine. Yeah, Joe from Maine. Shout out Maine. I love Maine.
Hey, Jolly and Jerry. It's Joe from Maine here again. Love the pod. Obviously, tough time to be a Mets fan right now. Kind of something that feels like a lot of teams go through, but we were spoiled last year with the amazing end the Mets had. So I guess I got kind of a two-part question here. One is going to be for Jerry. What's the kind of mood or vibe going on in the clubhouse for a professional baseball team when something like this is happening? And then for both Jolly and Jerry, what do you think the mindset for the Mets needs to be going forward? Do they need to rattle off a bunch of wins in a row, or do they need to just start slowly getting back in the win column? Thanks. Keep up the great work. Bye.
Thank you very much, Joe. Great question.
Main man.
Main man.
Yeah, thanks for the question. The mood in the clubhouse is great, I imagine. Obviously they're not riding the highs, but this is a team that knows that what they're capable of. They're just trying to find it. It's a very positive, fun environment. I guarantee it. But there are some guys determined, and if they feel like, you show up to the ballpark every day. If you're dreading it, then if it feels negative, then it's a tough year. I don't think this team is there. I think they are pressing a little bit because they want to win. So I think it might be let's relax a little bit, fellas. Let's let us play baseball. If we're playing our brand of baseball and we're losing, that's when we can feel like this. But we're not playing up to where we need to play to. Win or lose, they're not playing the style of baseball that they should be. And I think that's why it'll be, all right, guys, let's come in, have fun, do our work. The clubhouse will be fine. Again, it's May the 5th. It's been a weird start to the year. A lot of weird times for games and cancels and rain and double headers and just weird. So relax. This is a marathon. Let's play some baseball and we'll be okay. I think that's the feeling in the clubhouse now.
Yeah, I mean, they had their taste of success last year, and also like I think it's interesting because I don't think there was ever a feeling of easiness last year because they were racing with the Braves the whole time. It was never like they had something locked down. But yeah, they're a non-panic clubhouse. And then to answer the second part of the question, as for what the Mets need to do right now, I don't think a winning streak is really in the cards, and nor what they are envisioning as like the recipe for success here. But it's winning series, man. It's beating the bad teams, because right now they have a positive record against winning teams and a losing record against losing teams. And I think that's the formula for success. You got to beat the teams that you should be beating. And that's what they did so well last year up until September. They really pounced on teams that they should be beating and won pretty much every series they got against sub 500 teams, and then played up to their competition, which was good. And right now we're just not seeing that. And I think it's whether it's they're taking their foot off the gas or it's just getting bad pitching performances in those series specifically. It's the reason why this team is in this situation, because if you win one of those two games against the Giants and you take the National Series and you take the Tiger Series, you're looking at a team that's 5 games over 500, and we're not even doing this voicemail episode. It's a completely different season.
Yeah, you nailed it there. You said something that they got to win series. That's the key. Just you're not trying to sweep. You're just winning series, winning a ball game. We are seeing some things this year that we didn't see last year at all. Where mental mistakes.
Yeah.
That Nimmo stolen base attempt. That was bizarre, and he addressed it. Again, he stood in front of his locker. It was like, that was not a very smart move.
Very thoroughly he addressed it too, with like the
As he
numbers and
should.
everything. Yeah.
Yep, it was a mistake. Very silly. We didn't see that from Buck Showalter led team. That is a little bit concerning, and that might be a hey, Buck might be like, hey, let's figure this out. Let's write this. We're not in the right mindset. We shouldn't be playing down to our competition. We didn't see it at all last year. These teams lose. They ran into Josiah Gray, who looked incredible, and
Yeah.
Mackenzie Gore looks like the real deal. You're going to do that. They go to Cincinnati. If they run into Lodolo and Hunter Green at their best, could be a couple of losses. But in general, on the season, you should win 2 out of 3 against the bad teams. It's just the way it goes. We have seen a little bit of difference from last year, but it's an identity thing, and they got to figure it out here pretty quick on what style of baseball they're going to play.
Yeah, definitely agree. And I mean, you can still salvage this 13-game stretch by just
Easy.
beating the bad teams. That's really all you have to do. You take 2 out of 3 against the Rockies and the Reds, and then 3 out of 4 against the Nats, and you're looking at 8 wins and I think 5 losses, which is perfect. It's fine. You can work with that. But the Mets got to go out there and do it, man. They got to go out there and do it. And I think that's kind of the extent of the questions we got here. Most of them, a lot of similar questions asked, so we picked out that bunch. Again, we want to thank all you guys for calling in and voicing your concerns and kind of basking in this weirdness with us. But
I disappeared. I was doing some math.
Yeah, I wonder.
We're like 17% through the season, maybe 20%, not even there yet.
Not even, yeah.
Even if you were great now, you're going to have some hiccups along the way. This is a weird season. It's baseball so strange because you play every day. Your concerns are real. You're allowed to have them, but don't put the nail in the coffin and be panicked just yet. Scherzer's a concern, understandably. Marte, let's see him get back to speed, but this is still a very good baseball team with a lot of very good players and with still have World Series aspirations. I don't think that's out the window yet. I expect this team to contend. I expect them to, win, like you said, 85 to 90 plus games and be in the playoffs. And so if you're in the playoffs, you got a chance. I still think they're a very good baseball team. So I'm not ready to wipe my hands of them yet.
I agree. And that takes us to looking ahead against the Colorado Rockies, which I think I'll take over today since I've had you do
Yeah,
a lot of
knock it out.
talking, a lot of answering
You do it.
questions.
Do we have
Mets
an ad
are,
read too for you?
I did that at the beginning. You're good.
Okay.
Mets 500 team at home, 500 team on the road. So hopefully we break something there, get a little winning record going. They're welcoming in the Colorado Rockies, who are a not so good team this year, a team that you could argue the Mets should beat, as they are 12-20 on the season, kind of searching for their own identity and not hitting very well. Game 1, Kodai Senga finally pitches again. He's home again, 3-1 with a 4.15 ERA against Antonio Senzatella, who's making his season debut. Escobar, Lindor, McNeil, Marte, and Nimmo all have homered off Senzatella. Marte's 6 for 11, and Pham is 6 for 13, so hopefully those two can get right. Pham had a good game this series. We didn't shout him out, so props to Tommy Pham breaking that hitting streak. I jinxed him a little bit. That's my bad. But also, I kind of fixed him, so not all bad.
You fessed up, all right, and you took credit. That's pretty good stuff.
Senzatella, a career 2.88 ERA against the Mets in 5 starts, so he feels comfortable against us. And Kodai Senga hasn't pitched since April 26th, which is now 9 days ago. 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs against the Nationals. I was at that game. They did not win. It was miserable. Hopefully they win tonight. Game 2, Tylor Megill with a 3-1 record and a 4.11 ERA against Austin Gomber, 2-4 with a 7.57 ERA. If you're a diehard Mets fan, you remember Austin Gomber's name and you shudder a little bit because he has really good career numbers against us for some reason. His last 2 starts in the past 2 years, 15 innings pitched, 10 strikeouts, no walks, 4 earned runs, and 2 wins. Hopefully the Mets can crack the code against the lefty. For Megill, he's allowed 1 run or less or pitched 6 innings or more in just 1 of 6 starts this year. Hopefully he can break that curse a little bit and give us a quality start. Gomber has given up 9 runs in 2 innings to the Pirates, but then had 2 good starts after that. So he's riding on a little bit of a heater. Hopefully the Mets can break that up in game 2. Game 3, Joey Lucchesi is the probable starter because they kept him short in Detroit. He's 1-0.
So weird.
Really weird. We'll talk about it. 1-0 with a 3.86 against Ryan Feltner, who's 2-2 with a 4.45 ERA. Pete Alonso, 2 for 2 with a home run against Feltner in his career. Feltner has allowed just 2 home runs in 30 innings this year, so hopefully the Mets can clobber him a little bit. And then, as Jerry alluded to, Joey Lucchesi was pulled after just 46 pitches on Wednesday and should be well rested for this Sunday game. Those are your probables for Mets Rockies at Citi Field coming up. And hopefully we get some good starts.
Nice. Yeah, the Lucchesi thing was so strange. It was like worrisome because you pull a pitcher with that few pitches. And
I thought
like,
he was
is
injured.
He hurt?
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody did. But it turns out that Buck Showalter was rolling the dice, playing a little strategy there because he knew that they didn't have anybody slated for Sunday because of the double headers that they've had. They have pitchers stacked up. To be honest, his gamble worked because Lucchesi pitched 4, and then Jimmy Yacobonis came and threw 3 shutouts.
Bonus, so good.
So he was good because they got 7. They were in the lead, and then Ottavino kind of gave it up. So you plan to have a lead going into the 8th inning. That's what he did, and it worked out for him. But the team lost, and now you do have Joey Lucchesi ready for Sunday, if that's what was really going on.
Which I kind of believe.
Still,
I don't know.
I believe
man.
it too, but if he comes out and he looks fine, he has no weird like blister issue or hammy issue. It was strange. But Buck again has been pretty open and honest. What a gamble to pull your starting pitcher, and he looked good. Like the first inning obviously wasn't great, but he locked it in and he was cruising.
Yeah. Lucchesi has had kind of a rough first inning in all of his starts, if I remember correctly. That's kind of just how things have gone. Even in the Giants start, I think the bases were loaded.
Joey Fuego.
He needs a little bit to get the fire going, but he'll be good. He'll be all right. As for the other two, I was kind of surprised reading out the numbers because these are not bad numbers for any of our starters. It just hasn't really looked that way, if I'm being completely honest. I think the base runners not scoring is probably the biggest thing there. But clean outings for Senga and Megill are going to be big here. This is a Rockies lineup that has been pretty bad. Even the names that you think would be good have been bad. CJ Cron is below league average right now. It's really just Chris Bryant and Charlie Blackmon kind of carrying the load. Also, Elias Diaz is having a good year, who's catching for them. But yeah, this Rockies team is kind of in the middle of nowhere, like they kind of have been for a while. The bullpen's been actually kind of okay for them. Starters have been bad. So it's a similar Rockies team to what we've seen. The Mets beat up on them last year. Hopefully they can beat up on them again.
They need to crack that Gomber code.
What the hell is that, man? Why can't you crack Austin Gomber?
Some people just got it. That's great.
Yeah, that's great.
But again, this is a take 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
Win a series, especially at home against a lesser team, and then get back on that road trip.
Yeah, they got 7 games on the road after this.
This is another 3 on the road, 3 at home, 7 on the road. Like, what is happening?
Who made the schedule, man? Who made the schedule?
I blame Manfred.
It's the easiest thing to do. Just blame Manfred. All right, guys. Hopefully you found this episode at least a little bit consoling or therapeutic, and hopefully you're feeling good about a game tonight. I think it's kind of washed over for me. I'm excited to watch Senga pitch. Obviously, I'll change my mind if they're losing, but I'm excited to watch the Mets play baseball at home and hopefully get a home win tonight.
I will be on the pre and post. Me and Gary Apple back together.
The dude. How happy was Gary Apple after Jimmy Yacabonis 3 shutout innings?
He was so happy. But then, then they lost, so he didn't get to talk about it as much. He said, I still said the name a couple times.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, thank you guys for all the voicemails, man. That was great. Don't freak out yet. It's not ready. Not ready for that.
Yeah, not quite there yet. Could get there soon. Who knows? But go out there, beat the Rockies.
Sure.
Beat the Rockies.
Yep. Beat the Rockies.
Beat the Rockies. All right, let's go, Mets. Buddy. We'll see you guys soon.
See ya.